had somebody tell you a really good ghost story? Today we're looking at 10 movies that will do just that. These aren't necessarily the best or the scariest haunting films ever made, but for a quiet night when you just want some ghostly chills, they might just be perfect. My name is Daniel with the Cobwebs channel, and let's get started.
I'm not the only one who thought there was a ghost in this house, Kylie.
Housebound from 2014. When a troubled young woman is sentenced to home detention, she's forced to come to terms with her destructive behavior, her blabbering mother, and a hostile spirit who seems less than happy about their new living arrangement. This is a New Zealand film that's usually classified as a horror comedy, although I would personally just call it a horror movie that has some funny moments. It definitely takes itself seriously enough, has some actual chilling moments, and some good character arcs. This is one I've been meaning to watch for so long, and I've actually started it, I think, a couple of times. And I always struggled with the beginning, getting past the main character being so incredibly unlikable. But that's really the point. She's supposed to be somebody who's really struggling, who gets involved in crime, in drugs, and gets under house arrest, which is a fantastic way to kick off a haunted house movie when somebody literally cannot leave the house legally. The screenwriter has talked about how he wanted a main character who wouldn't scare easily, so that when she is, it would really feel like it means something. And I think they accomplished that here with a very hardened main character who does end up having a really good character arc, and it's kind of amazing watching her become more likable, getting more on her side, despite the fact that she doesn't dramatically change who she is. I really enjoyed this. It's very fun and charming. The cast of characters is so enjoyable to spend time with. Like, I really enjoyed the main security guy who has to keep track of her ankle monitor, because it turns out he's a paranormal investigating enthusiast and joins forces with her and her mom in trying to investigate the ghostly happenings, where this plot went when it comes to trying to solve a murder that happened in the house. That's a very common trope of haunted house movies, and this film accomplishes it so well. Has a lot of unexpected turns and twists on the genre, and even utilizes the visual motif of a white sheet ghost. I love that classic image. I'm always happy when a movie uses it. Housebound is tons of fun, but still has some chilling moments when it needs to. The Ghost from 1963. A woman and her lover murder her husband. Soon, however, strange things start happening, and they wonder if he is coming back from the dead to take revenge. This is a classic Italian horror movie that's directed by Riccardo Frida, who's the guy that made the horrible Dr. Hitchcock with Barbara Steele, which is a really good movie. And this is not a sequel to that, but once again features Barbara Steele being married to a guy named Dr. Hitchcock, and there's no other connection. I'm always happy to watch a gothic Barbara Steele ghost story, and this is a very classic version of it. It was actually intended to be a gothic reimagining of Les Diaboliques, the French film from the 50s, but Barbara Steele is typically great here, playing a little bit of a different character for her, because even though she's involved in an affair and murder, it's much more of a normal person character, that she's not some crazy psycho witch or something like that. Peter Baldwin plays her boyfriend, but I really loved Elio Giotto as Dr. Hitchcock, who is very sufficiently creepy. Something that's great about his character is he's very sick at the beginning of the film, and he becomes obsessed with the occult, seances, ghosts, is always having over mediums and paranormal experts over to his house to try to learn more about the afterlife that he's so sure he is headed for soon. The atmosphere is jaw-dropping beautiful, even by the standards of a Barbara Steele Italian film. It is so colorful. This castle, the thunder going on outside, it's so great. The story itself is slow, which is very typical for Italian horror from this time period, although it's certainly not the worst offender of this that I've seen by a long shot. And the story is fairly typical. When you go into this, you're going to expect a classic story and just watch this movie's take on it. But I did find the ending still really dark, twisted, and satisfying. I enjoyed The Ghost.
Get away from her, Dave. What are you? She's dangerous.
Ghost Story.
Ghost Story from 1981. Four elderly men in a small New England town are haunted by a dark secret from their past when the vengeful ghost of a woman they wronged returns to torment them and their families. The first thing you gotta acknowledge about this film is the cast, especially if you're a fan of old classic Hollywood films, as I definitely am. These four old dudes are played by Fred Astaire, Melvin Douglas, Douglas Fairbanks Jr., legends of classic Hollywood, and John Houseman, who you might primarily know as the old man that tells the campfire ghost story in John Carpenter's The Fog. These guys have a secret club where they all get together and tell ghost stories, which is definitely my dream for when I'm old and retire. I just want to get together with some folks, let's tell ghost stories, it'll be great. But our young leading man is Craig Wasson, and he's investigating what is this secret in the past for these old men. And when he finally finds out and we go to flashbacks, it's all about this woman played by Alice Krige. And I just think Alice Krige is spectacular in this movie, like the reason to watch it. Like, you got all these Hollywood legends in this movie, and Alice Krige blows everyone out of the water. I just think she's like shockingly beautiful, alluring, charming. This is one I struggled with a bit on my initial watch, really just because of pacing issues. All of the stuff in the present day feels very slow, but whenever we go to flashbacks with these men when they were young and Alice Krige, I think the movie just sings. It's fantastic. So I've been really meaning to rewatch this, and I probably will this winter because it has a fantastic snowy atmosphere. The director actually intended the movie to look like a Christmas card, and I think he really accomplished that. It's absolutely beautiful. But I did want to talk about it here because it so has the feeling of a classic ghost story. And it does have some really great ghostly imagery, especially by the end.
What if you could prove that the supernatural was merely a manifestation of what already exists in the mind?
The Quiet Ones from 2014. Only a little over 10 years later, I already think The Quiet Ones is such a forgotten film. It really was not received very well when it came out, but I've always been curious to check it out, mostly because it's actually a Hammer film. Hammer came back in 2012 and put out The Woman in Black, and then they made The Quiet Ones. And this one is actually based on a true story, the story of the Philip experiment. It was a parapsychology experiment conducted in Toronto in 1972, where people set out to test whether the human mind could create a ghost through collective imagination. The participants invented a fictional ghost and even created an elaborate backstory for him, and then held a bunch of seances to figure out if they could actually manifest him with their mind. It's a pretty interesting story on its own, but the movie makes it way bigger, way more dramatic, with it all centering around one woman who already appears to be haunted, already has a ghost that she knows its name, and it seems to be haunting or possessing her entire life. Still, despite the changes, it's always fun to watch a haunting movie and be able to attach it to a somewhat real-life ghost story. Despite not being a total success, I enjoyed this movie mostly because of, one, the cast. Everybody is great here, but especially Olivia Cooke as the troubled young woman, and Jared Harris as the professor. He's the reason to watch this, in my opinion. When you make a modern Hammer film and you can no longer have Christopher Lee, Peter Cushing in the lead, Jared Harris ends up being an excellent modern substitute. And it's just fun to watch him pontificate about all this parapsychology stuff like, oh, this strange phenomena, it's not a ghost, it's simply teleplasm that she created with her mind. It's very over the top and ridiculous, but always a good time. The period piece look taking place in the 1970s is great. I really enjoyed the style of this, with a lot of it actually being on 16mm film because of one character who's filming the experiment. So the movie ends up being a bit of a balance between standard movie and found footage. It's an interesting story, but I think most suffers because it's never scary. And I'm aware I'm a experienced, jaded horror fan. Not a lot scares me now, but I still feel like I can objectively tell when a movie is accomplishing being scary and crafting great scare sequences. And I don't think The Quiet Ones ever does, but I actually think the most chilling part is the end credits, where it shows pictures of all the real life people, and they actually look very close to the movie cast, which makes me feel like this all really happened. It didn't, but it's an effective tool.
Pick him out, Crane. The only man to be taken outright from this world by the headless horseman of Sleepy Hollow.
The Legend of Sleepy Hollow from 1999. Washington Irving's classic story of the Headless Horseman is my favorite ghost story of all time. But when I say that year, 1999, you're probably thinking of Tim Burton's version. Well, that actually wasn't the only one. This is a made-for-TV, specifically made-for Hallmark version that came out that's actually way closer to the original story. And keep in mind, Hallmark in the 90s was not what Hallmark is today. They weren't just pumping out the same low-effort romance movie 10 million times. Despite its clear made-for-TV, non-cinematicness, I actually think it accomplished looking quite good with the period atmosphere of the costumes and sets, all set out in the country. It has a good fall feeling to it, even having a harvest festival in there, but most of the film doesn't feel like a horror movie at all, which might throw you off, but that's how the original story is. The original story is almost nothing like the Tim Burton film. It's all about a new schoolmaster, Ichabod Crane, coming to Sleepy Hollow, falling in love with Katrina Van Tassel, partially for selfish reasons, and being in a romantic rivalry with Brom Bones for her heart, and eventually, at the end, meeting the Headless Horseman in the woods. So if you're just looking for a good Friday night horror movie experience, don't watch this. It's not going to give you what you're looking for, but if you're a fan of the original story, I think you gotta see it. It's great to see it dramatized. Brent Carver is amazing as Ichabod Crane. He is the perfect live action version of the classic character. Way more like the character than Johnny Depp ever was, for sure. Really, the only changes are fleshing out Katrina and Brom quite a bit more. They had to do something to make this a little bit of a longer story, and I think it worked out really well. The ending that it's building up to with the Headless Horseman is good, not great. I wish they could have got a little bit more money for the special effects, but when you're watching a movie from Hallmark, I guess you kind of got to expect it. I could totally see this being some kind of lost TV relic, but it's actually widely available on streaming. So if you're a Sleepy Hollow nerd like me, check it out.
And ever since then, people have reported seeing the ghost of Madeline O'Malley.
The Innkeepers from 2011. During the final days at the Yankee Peddler Inn, two employees determined to reveal the hotel's haunted past begin to experience disturbing events as old guests check in for a stay. Especially after the X trilogy, Ty West has become one of the most popular horror filmmakers, and this is one of his early films. It was actually his follow-up to The House of the Devil. In fact, while making that movie, him and the crew stayed at the Yankee Peddler Inn, which is a real place, and supposedly had strange experiences there. The staff of the inn fully believe that it's haunted, and that inspired Ty West to make a movie all centered around it and actually filmed in that location. Along with the backstory and location being so cool and interesting, the reason to watch this is the two lead characters played by Pat Healy and Sarah Paxton, who were both in a lot of indie horror during this time period, so I have a lot of affection for them, and they're so fun. They're so likable in this movie as the staff of this inn who do believe it to be haunted and are part-time amateur paranormal investigators, and whenever they have downtime at work, they're trying to prove that there are ghosts there. And even though the film is definitely deliberately paced, and some people complain that it's too slow, I never think it is because the characters are so enjoyable to just hang out with. It's just a good hangout film. Ty West said his belief was that horror is scarier when you really care about the people involved, and I think that's 100% right. It really worked out here because even though you really have to build up to the scares, and they're always somewhat subtle, there are some really effective, very creepy moments here, and it has an end shot that I'm still trying to find the ghost in it. That's one of the legendary things about this movie. The ghost in the final shot that is so subtle, I still haven't found it. Supposedly a lot of other people have. That's going to be one of the quests of my life to find that ghost.
Your house. You must leave it. Get out.
The Haunting of Julia from 1977. After the death of her daughter, wealthy housewife Julia Lofting abruptly leaves her husband and moves into an old Victorian home in London that may be haunted by other children. Also known by the UK title Full Circle, this stars Mia Farrow 9 years after she made Rosemary's Baby, and it's a British film, so she's actually using a fake British accent in here, but to my ears is doing a great job. And it's a film with a horrifying opening scene with her daughter just choking, just a standard sitting at the kitchen table, chokes on some food, and Mia Farrow just watches her slowly die from this. It is so terrifying. It's such a crazy way to open the movie and really sets us on this path of this very dark, very tragic, but very classic haunted house film that really just feels like a drama for a lot of it, but it's very successful in that way because Mia Farrow is so good. It has such a great supporting cast, interesting characters, and a lot of very creepy scenes and atmosphere. This is a very visually dark movie. Its scare sequences have a heavy reliance on shadow, but it just looked fantastic to me on this 4K release that Scream Factory put out. This is a movie that I'd wanted to see for a long time, but was largely unavailable. It's sadly still unavailable on streaming. I don't understand why, but you can pick out the Scream Factory 4K. It looks so good. Or if you can find another way to watch it, I do think The Haunting of Julia is such a sad, tragic, emotionally affecting, but very creepy ghost story.
He's trying to hold your hand. What? You think the living are full of regrets? You ought to hear the dead.
Half-Light from 2006. This is actually another film about a mother grieving the death of her child, a best-selling novelist who leaves her home in the city after that tragic event and moves into a vacant country house on the Scottish coast and begins a relationship with a charming lighthouse keeper and maybe communicating with ghosts. This is a Demi Moore starring horror film. Nice to see another one other than The Substance that I'd actually never heard of because it is largely like a forgotten movie until one of you guys actually messaged me and told me about it and sold it to me as a cozy autumn ghost story, and that's just my thing, so I watched it that very night, I'm not gonna lie. And the movie is certainly not amazing, but I do think it's one that pretty much anyone would describe as cozy. I know I call a lot of horror movies that, and some people get that, some people think it's weird, but this is one I think anybody would say that about. It is a ghost story, and there is some scary and violent stuff in here, but it is light on the spookiness and much higher on things like, one, atmosphere. This is a nice autumn movie, although you're mainly going to get the changing trees just in the parts in London. Once she goes to the Scottish coast, although this was actually filmed in Wales, of course you don't get those vibrant trees, but it is still a chilly seaside feel with a lighthouse just out there. It's a really nice atmosphere to spend a movie in, especially with somebody wonderful like Demi Moore. It's also high on the romantic aspect between her and the lighthouse keeper, played by Hans Matheson, who's okay here. Honestly, I really could have used a more charismatic male lead in this, but it's fine. And it's high on mystery. So if you're not looking for the scariest horror movie in the world and you just want to watch a nice movie about a woman going to a beautiful location, falling in love, communicating with ghosts, uncovering dark secrets in a creepy mystery, then I think you will have a good time with Half-Light.
There are spirits in this house.
Do you think she's imagining everything?
Don't you?
Haunted from 1995. A professor who exposes fraud spiritualists and mediums is invited to Edbrook to resolve the fear of hauntings within its secretive family. This is another one I only found because of you guys suggesting it to me in the comment section. It's another movie that seems to be kind of lost. It's not available on streaming at all, but if you can find it somewhere, like maybe Internet Archive or something like that, I highly recommend it, especially if you're a total nutcase for period piece ghost stories, which I 100% am. I love the turn of the century English mansion and the countryside kind of atmosphere to it. And the film has a wonderful cast. I think Aidan Quinn has maybe never been better as this paranormal researcher and skeptic who's trying to figure out what is going on with the ghosts in this house. But of course, he is emotionally drawn into the whole mystery because of Kate Beckinsale, the sister who lives among this family. And this was her breakout role, and she's just like jaw-droppingly beautiful and charming and alluring in this. She's really just playing the perfect dream girl, and she does an amazing job with that. And the movie's pretty high on an erotic feeling. There's just a really strong, palpable chemistry between the two of them. There's a fairly graphic sex scene that actually has probably the worst stunt body doubling I've ever seen in my life. Like, that is clearly not Aidan Quinn. That's just some other dude. But I like this movie a lot. It's got to be one of my favorite discoveries of the year. It is a cozy ghost story that I think is ultimately much more successful than Half-Light. And the mystery is genuinely intriguing with a really good conclusion. For some of you guys, Haunted is going to be a real find.
I'm sitting here with Carolyn Perrin, who, with her family, has been experiencing supernatural occurrences.
The Conjuring from 2013. Paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren work to help a family terrorized by a dark presence in their farmhouse. So obviously, this is one of the biggest and most impactful classics of its decade, maybe of all time, considering it's one of the only horror movies to spawn its own cinematic universe. But I gotta talk about it right now. When I first saw this in theaters in 2013, it was amazing. I absolutely loved it. It terrified me like everybody else. I had an incredible theatrical experience with it, and I even continued to love it on another rewatch or two. But my feelings on it dramatically changed because, one, my family, especially my dad, got super obsessed with this movie, so I ended up seeing it too many times. It kept getting rewatched. And then it spawned all these sequels and spin-offs and cinematic universe. And honestly, guys, I got super sick of it. I kind of became a hater for The Conjuring, and I just kind of like put it off to the side, like I don't care about this for quite a few years. But there's a new Conjuring movie coming out soon, and I've been getting really into ghost movies lately, and I felt the pull to rewatch it and just kind of see, is it the movie itself or is it just external factors that are making me feel this way? After rewatching it, it is a really good movie, and I'm really glad that I came back to it after so long, that I put a lot of distance between myself and The Conjuring so I could just see it for what it is. It's an excellent film. It is brilliantly directed by James Wan. I love what a stylish filmmaker he is, how visceral the camera is, but how beautiful every frame of this movie is. It is such a great looking movie. The atmosphere is so good, both inside the house and outside. The scares still make it a powerful horror experience. Now, most of the big scares don't necessarily work on me anymore, which is to be expected. I've seen it so many times. But a lot of the smaller moments still give me chills, like especially when the Warrens are sitting across the table from the two parents in the family and just describing what's going on, what this entity is, how it's latched onto them. It still gives me chills, and I just love that this is a movie about a ghost witch, which is supposedly a true story, as is this whole movie, which gives a lot of people a weird feeling about this movie, and it did to me in the past too, as the Warrens are people who there's a lot of debate around them and how legit they actually are, and this movie really idolizes them, and its sequel even takes that to greater extremes, like turning them into full-on superheroes. But deciding the truthfulness of real life and how it compares, it's not the point of this channel and not something that I'm really going to dig into. The heart of the film is wonderful. Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga are amazing as these characters. They are incredibly lovable, but I also love the family with Ron Livingston and Lily Taylor, and you just so want them to get their lives back that is being ripped away from them by horrific spirits infesting their house. The Conjuring is a great movie. I'm really glad I came back to it, and I'm surprised to say this, but I'm excited to go see the new one. Before I go, I just want to give a huge thank you to my patrons who truly make this channel possible. Thank you guys for supporting me, and if anyone else wants to support what I do here, there's always a link to my Patreon in the description below. And I want to give a special shout out to Colin Solomon, Stacy Rose, and Mark Lopez. You guys are the absolute best. If you want to check any of these out for yourself, I do have streaming options right here on the screen, but of course those are subject to change, so if you want to pick these up on physical media, there are links in the description, and using those does help support the channel. What are some other ghost movies you recommend? Let me know down in the comments below, and you can click the video on the screen for 10 more ghost story recommendations. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to enjoy yourself this spooky season. Have some fun, and I'll see you next time. Bye.